The movie begins with a panoramic view of a shadowy, advanced city filled with futuristic technology. The setting shifts to David strolling through a corridor, armed with a loaded gun. Entering his cell, he encounters a distressed woman pleading for mercy, yet he swiftly shoots her in the head. Using his knife, he removes her head to unveil a robotic entity containing a beacon. As David takes off the silencer from his gun, a voice interrupts the quiet, confirming the completion of his mission and advising him to leave as the cleanup team deals with the aftermath. The female voice also informs him that Joseph, the brother of Vedic Corporation's owner, will soon arrive to conduct an evaluation. Offering a cup of coffee, Joseph, introducing himself as the family psychologist, hands David his assessment. Expressing his appreciation for David's swift response, Joseph pointed out that most individuals would hesitate to shoot the robot designed to evoke sympathy. However, David acted without hesitation. Joseph delved deeper into David's retirement, and he learned that during an apprehension, both David's partner and the assailant were fatally wounded. David's failure to adhere to protocol resulted in his partner being taken hostage. With keen interest, Joseph asked why David responded to the job offer, particularly as they had approached candidates through unconventional channels. Casually, David mentioned his need for money, but drew a line at jobs involving killing. Concluding the evaluation, Joseph informed David that he could now meet Marlon, Joseph's brother. Instructed to enter a card, David was chauffeured to an opulent mansion where he encountered the eccentric Marlon. Marlon invited him to a common room with multiple TVs, pointing at one of the monitors. Marlon revealed that David's mission was to retrieve his daughter, assuming she had been kidnapped. When David questioned why Marlon hadn't involved the police, the CDO asserted that he knew her exact location. Marlon explained that he recruited David for discretion, wanting someone who wouldn't compromise pragmatism with principles. Sensing David's confusion, Marlon began his explanation mentioning Zone 4114, a luxurious city where the government had rewarded him to test the interactions between his robots and humans. Marlon informed David that his daughter was located in the zone and tasked him with discreetly retrieving her, emphasizing the fragility of his community. Marlon granted David access to the zone, ensuring that everything necessary for the mission, including doubling his salary with an additional $2 million, would be provided. Marlon introduced Jane, his latest creation, as the one who would assist David in the mission. Meanwhile, at Verdict Corp in Zone 4114, a wealthy man was in the process of purchasing an android, contemplating various options. Royale, responsible for PR and sales, steered the man towards a male sample, recognizing his true preference and affirming his right to request whatever he desired. After parting ways with Marlon, David made his way to the zone, using the entrance card provided to pass through the gates. Upon entering, he headed straight to his hotel, absorbing the peculiar sights around him. In a hotel room in the city, Jane was consoling a customer who had lost a woman he loved, changing her appearance to a color of his choosing. Inquiring about the woman, Jane stirred a memory within him, and as he cried, she embraced him in a remarkably human way. Once her client had left, Jane consulted her eye alpha about her remaining appointments, feeling frustrated to learn that 2 more were expected. Upon completing her sessions, she requested maintenance and approached her handler, an elderly woman. Positioned in front of a camera, the handler mentioned a recent client's satisfaction with Jane's services, but expressed his reluctance to see her again to preserve her experience. Abruptly, Jane heard the elevator to her loft, rushing to the door and finding David. He informed her that Marlon had sent him to locate his daughter, Melissa. After declining a drink, David was told by Jane that she had found Melissa in her apartment, posing as a synthetic despite her father. Jane explained that she had persuaded Melissa to return to her dad, fearing repercussions from Royale, their pimp, who might mistake her for a synthetic. When David asked to be taken to Royale, Jane negotiated a deal by sharing the threatening voicemails she had been receiving. While promising to look into it, David noticed someone watching them from the roof and hurried outside. Despite attempting to follow the man, he lost him, only finding a camera with a revealing picture of Jane in her apartment. Although not programmed to feel emotions, Jane experienced fear. In an effort to comfort her, David offered to stay the night, planning to visit Royale the next day. Jane and David went to Royale's office, where they found her behind her desk. Upon seeing Jane, Royale instructed her to leave and turned her attention to David, inquiring about his relationship with Jane and warning him of an inherent flaw in her creation. Despite requesting Marlon to reprogram Jane, he refused due to pride. Returning to the matter of Melissa, Royale provided David with a potential lead and an address, cautioning him about the location's dangers. As David left her office, Royale made a call, instructing the person on the other end to release the girl immediately and to avoid mentioning her name in the conversation. Taking a cab, Jane and David arrived at the specified location and knocked on what appeared to be a warehouse door. Once granted entry, they were led through a long hallway to a dimly lit room where they encountered George. Apologizing for the poor lighting due to his skin sensitivity, George introduced Melissa and his androids, Hamilton and Jaden. George explained that Hamilton found Melissa outside the building, appearing lost and frightened. Assuming she was a synthetic, George hadn't inquired further. In a bargaining move, George proposed disclosing Melissa's whereabouts in exchange for 2 hours alone with Jane, pledging not to harm her excessively. Infuriated, Jane shattered a glass and confronted George with the sharp end at his throat, threatening his life to force him to reveal Melissa's location. Terrified, George confessed that Royale had given him the girl, but she had vanished and he was unaware of her current whereabouts. Shaking in fear, Hamilton disclosed the last time he saw Melissa was near the boatyard behind the city. Leaving the unsettling location, Jane and David proceeded to the boatyard, searching for clues. Upon discovering an open container, they found Melissa hanging from a rope. After returning Melissa's body to her father, David expressed doubt about her suicide, citing inconsistencies in the crime scene. Despite David's insistence on continuing the investigation, Marlon halted him, declaring his services no longer needed. Marlon feared that any questionable actions could jeopardize the zone and pose a threat to the multi-billion-dollar investment. Marlon issued a menacing threat to David, cautioning him about the power he possessed to ruin him if he attempted to dismantle his project. Promising funds in David's account by morning, Marlon dismissed him. Meanwhile, inside Royale's office, Jane implored her pimp to remove the emotions she was experiencing. Consoling her, Royale suggested that all Jane needed to do was believe Melissa had taken her own life instead of being murdered. Following the conversation with Royale, Jane sought out David and pleaded with him to inform Marlon about the truth. Concerned about potential repercussions, David revealed that Marlon intended to act as if nothing had happened. Understanding that she was sent by Royale, David instructed Jane to reassure her master that no harm would come to her. However, David then accused Jane of being responsible for Melissa's death, citing the trust the girl had placed in her to take her to Royale. Upset, Jane retaliated by bringing up David's schizophrenic wife who had taken her own life, questioning if he blamed himself for her death. In anger, David instructed her to leave, asserting that he would be leaving the zone the next day. Despite her reminder of his promise to protect her, he pointed out that she didn't want to be saved, convinced she could never escape her predicament. Leaving her in shock, David exited the zone and sought out Joseph. Back in the city, having received congratulations and his $2 million, David questioned Joseph about Melissa. In a calm and composed manner, David accused Joseph of stalking Jane, Marlon's favorite, and of murdering Melissa. Initially denying the accusations, Joseph eventually confessed, disclosing that Melissa had caught him harming one of the robots and threatened to inform her father. Leading David to another room, Joseph revealed a disturbing mannequin composed of parts from the robots he had killed. He sinisterly disclosed his intention to continue terrorizing Jane, possibly even killing her, and keeping her brain as leverage. Threatening to expose David, Joseph warned that the money wouldn't be forthcoming if he took any drastic action. Furthermore, Joseph asserted that Marlon would never allow David to go to jail. Feeling trapped, David reluctantly left Joseph's residence. Back at the zone, Joseph made a sinister appearance at Jane's house, attempting to freeze her and subject her to the same torture he inflicted on others. Defiantly, Jane attacked him, beating him until David arrived. Despite feeling guilty for abandoning her, David handed her his gun, urging her to free herself. Without hesitation, Jane shot Joseph multiple times. Later, under pressure from Vidette's company, David was coerced into giving a statement implying the safety of the zone. He recorded a message stating that Melissa was alive as Marlon was creating an android version of her to secure his payout. In a separate scene, Marlon made final adjustments to the android resembling his daughter. As a reward for maintaining the company's confidentiality, David secured Jane's freedom from the city, allowing him to live among humans. In the final scene, Jane was depicted walking through the giant gates of the zone with David waiting for her. If you want to watch more recaps like these, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button.